Is it possible to make the playoffs while only tying? The rules for this challenge are very simple. I must end every game in a tie and see if that is enough for me to win the division and secure a playoff spot. So let's jump right into attempt number 1. Attempt number 1, I decided to choose the Texans because they are in a pretty bad division, only having to worry about the Titans and maybe the Colts unless they play like they have been in real life. And game 1 was against the Colts, which actually was a tie in real life, and I messed up by not changing the length of the quarters, so I was stuck playing 6-minute quarters. The game got off to a pretty good start with the rookie cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. getting his first career pick that was returned for 6. But unfortunately, I proceed to miss the PAT wide left. And the reason I decided to return the pick for a touchdown was just as a barrier in case the Colts scored, so I wouldn't be fighting back for the lead and I could just stay out in front. Well, that was the idea, but then I decided to just absolutely shank the PAT. And it turns out that returning that pick for a touchdown was the correct decision, because on our first drive of the game, let alone our first pass of the game, O.J. Howard fumbles and the Colts return it all the way to the 2-yard line. One play later, Jonathan Taylor gets an easy rushing touchdown, and the Colts make their extra point, putting them up 7-6. After a stalled Texans drive, Matt Ryan does what he does best in a Colts uniform and throws another pick, which is returned for 6 by the rookie safety Jalen Petrie. And since I terribly missed that extra point earlier, I am forced to go for 2 as a safety net in case the Colts score again. And if you ever need a 2-point conversion, just run slants, especially against the AI. They never really cover it. You just need a half-decent pass. Just like that, we are back on top, 14-7, and have a safety net in case something tragic happens, like us fumbling. After a very long Colts drive, Matt Ryan finds Mo Alley Cox wide open in the back of the end zone and ties the game at 14. With 2 seconds left in the game, the Colts take a iced around a 51-yard field goal, and the kicker misses it wide left, almost as wide left as that PAT I had earlier. Now going into overtime, all it really comes down to is who wins the coin toss, and if we lose the coin toss, our defense can make a stop, just chew the clock, and successfully come out of this game with a tie. With 3 minutes left in overtime, all we have to do is stop the Colts on 3rd and 11 to get the ball back, chew more clock, and tie the game. But unfortunately, I make a crucial mistake here, so I was going to sack Matt Ryan, and I dove to secure the sack, and it ends up costing us because I get called for a roughing the passer penalty, which is able to keep their drive alive. Due to that roughing the passer penalty giving the Colts the free first down, they proceed to march all the way down the field and get a 5-yard passing touchdown to win the game in overtime. And I just wasted half an hour just to lose the first game of this challenge. So new plan, I'm going to change the quarter length to 2 minutes so that each game does not take half an hour to complete. Now that the games are on 2-minute quarters, I decided to run it back with the Texans and try again. Nothing interesting happened in this game though against the Colts. I just chewed all the clock and we tied at 0-0. But at least I did make it past the first game of the season this time. Our second game of the season was against the Broncos and Russell Wilson, and he definitely was not cooking as he throws a pick right to Derek Stingley, which could have been returned for 6, but I did not want to risk the AI not scoring and losing the challenge on the second game. But after that pick, there was just more chewing clock and another 0-0 tie. Just like a Bears and Texans matchup in real life, this game had no offensive production and was very boring to watch. But just more chewing clock and another 0-0 tie. And I hope you like 0-0 ties because you will see a lot of them. Okay, the Week 4 matchup against the Chargers was weird, to say the least, because as you just saw, I tied them 0-0. But for some reason, when I go back to the main menu, it just didn't count the game or something. It like reverted to last week against the Chicago Bears, because it just made me advance the week and play the Chargers again, which I've never seen that before, and I don't know how that happens. So I had to end up playing the Chargers twice. Once I'm done upgrading the players there, you can see I'm back in Week 3 somehow. And I didn't even realize this at the beginning, like, oh cool, I'm now going to go play the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 5. But no, Madden had other ideas, and I had to play the Chargers again. But luckily, when I played the Chargers the second time, something interesting actually happened. There was actually scoring in that game. The first touchdown of the season goes to Austin Eckler, who got a 65-yard receiving touchdown, which was completely my fault because I was either on the linebacker who was man assigned to him and just didn't cover him, or there was no one covering him and that was just a free touchdown for them. With that touchdown, that leaves us 2 minutes to drive all the way down the field and score a touchdown so we can tie this game up. With 1 second left and at the 11-yard line, needing a touchdown to tie the game before half, Davis Mills passes right over the linebacker's head to Jordan Atkins, who catches the touchdown, and that successfully ties up the game 7-7 going into half. And you probably know how the rest of this game is going to go. We get the ball, chew clock, tie the game. The next group of games had nothing interesting at all, so I'm just going to put them all right here. Weeks 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all had nothing interesting about them, so I just decided to group them all in one massive group right here. Our Week 14 game versus the Chiefs got very scary, because the Chiefs have 13 seconds left, and that was enough to beat the Bills, and it's looking like it's enough to beat us, as Mahomes completes a very deep pass to Kadarius Toney, setting them up at the 15-yard line. And now actually looking back at this, I don't know why the Chiefs didn't take the field goal. For some reason they went for the touchdown, even though the field goal would have won the game, because most likely overtime would have just expired, but Mahomes completes the pass to Hardman, who gets tackled and brought down at the 4-yard line. Yeah, now that I'm watching this back in the edit, they should have just kicked the field goal and won. Why didn't they do that? That was way too scary. At least we ended up in a tie and didn't have to restart the whole season. I think we were due for a little bit of scoring, because this is the first time in, I think, 11 weeks that a touchdown has been scored. The cornerback Nelson gets kind of mossed by Westbrook Eamheim. I mean, kind of mossed because he really didn't do anything. But still, that's the first touchdown since week 11, and we find ourselves down 7. In the second quarter, with 39 seconds left before half, Davis Mills drops a deep pass wide over to Chris Moore, and Chris Moore, wide open, breaks Kevin Byard's tackle and walks into the end zone to tie the game at 7. This is the longest field goal that I've ever seen the AI attempt, because they usually just kneel the ball out and take it to halftime. But the Titans do end up coming short on this, 56-yard field goal, because I think Madden only goes back 10 yards. So I'm going to spare you from having to watch any more of this Titans game, and you can expect we tied 7-7. The final two games of the season were both division matches against the Jaguars and the Colts, but unfortunately, since the Colts ended up going 12-5-1 and the Titans went 8-6-2, they did not matter that much. I decided to look at the standings, and we were ranked 20th, which is very unfortunate, because the reason I picked the AFC South was because I expected the Colts to play badly and the Titans to kind of struggle, which the Titans kind of did. But after seeing how good the Colts did, I decided to switch up teams and go into an even worse division, the NFC South. The NFC South might be one of the worst divisions in the league and in Madden as well, and the only team to worry about is the Buccaneers, but for this attempt I just decided to choose my team, the Panthers, and see how it would go from there. In weeks 1 and 2, nothing happened, 0-0 ties. In week 3, it got kind of tense with the Saints having the ball at our 6-yard line with 16 seconds left. Jameis Winston passes to Jarvis Landry, who gets tackled at the 1-yard line. And I feel like if Jameis Winston passed the ball to Traquan Smith and had Jarvis Landry block, they probably would have scored a touchdown. But I'm fine with them not. Keeps the game 0-0 and easy for me, so I don't have to go down and score a touchdown. In week 4 versus the Cardinals, right before halftime, CJ Henderson does what he does best and forgets how to play football, as he just does not tackle DeAndre Hopkins, and I come in at a bad angle with the safety there, and we allow an easy touchdown for DeAndre Hopkins. With 17 seconds left, we are going to strike back with DJ Moore absolutely destroying the corner who's on him, Trayvon Mullen, for a 54-yard touchdown to tie the game at 7, and that's very weird to see Baker Mayfield actually passing to DJ Moore. As time expires going into halftime, the 49ers kick a field goal going up 3-0, and I return the favor as right before the end of the fourth quarter, I kick a field goal tying the game up 3-3, which eventually ends as a 3-3 tie. Here's another group of games where just nothing happened, so I'm going to storm through them really quickly. Week 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 were all 0-0 ties. The Week 11 matchup versus the Ravens was like every other 3-3 tie that we've had. They kicked their field goal right before half. I kicked my field goal at the end of the fourth quarter. There's another batch of games where they were just 0-0 ties. Are Week 12, 14, 15, and 16. And I skipped over Week 13 because that was our bye week. And in Week 14, to overtake the Buccaneers and lead the division, I need Tampa Bay to lose 3 out of the last 4 games. I mean, technically there's 5 games left, but we play them, so it's just going to be a tie. So I need Tampa to have at least 7 losses so we can jump them and lead the division. After a thrilling 0-0 tie against the Detroit Lions, I advance the week to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I see that we are number 1 in the division. Tampa Bay somehow lost 4 straight games. I got so incredibly lucky that they lost 4 straight, because if they didn't, I don't think we would have won the division. Maybe if they lost the last game, but that was just too risky. Because if Tampa Bay wins any one of those games, or like any two of those games, I have to restart the challenge right there. But I'm just so happy I got that lucky that Tampa lost 4 straight. And we have the division on lockdown because they have 7 losses, putting them beneath us, and they can't jump us to take the division. So we just have to tie against Tampa Bay and New Orleans, and we are in the playoffs and would have somehow won a division while only tying. With the last 2 games of the season up against the rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New Orleans Saints, there's nothing for us to worry about because we are in first place in the division, and both of the other teams do not have good enough records to jump over us and take the division. And right there, as you can see, 0-17, we made the playoffs in the wild card round and won our division. Taking a look at the league-wide standings, we were ranked 14th. And this was only the 3rd attempt. Well, really second full attempt, because the first attempt was the one game against the Colts where I had 6-minute quarters. Second one was the Texans where I came 3rd, and this was the 3rd attempt, the one I actually won. So to celebrate winning the division and making the playoffs with only ties, let's go win a Super Bowl. Just add a little cherry on top of an easy challenge. In the wild card round versus the Dallas Cowboys, our kicker Eddie Pinheiro successfully completes a fake field goal pass for a touchdown to Ian Thomas. And since you actually cannot tie in the playoffs, what I decided to do was just chew clock, go to overtime, let the first overtime period end, and then I would score. In the divisional round versus the San Francisco 49ers, Chuba Hubbard gets a 1-yard rushing touchdown to secure our spot in the conference championship, 1 game away from the Super Bowl. The conference championship game versus the Green Bay Packers, there was actually some scoring for once when Aaron Rodgers connects with Allen Lazard, who then mosses Sean Chandler for a 35-yard touchdown. With 4 seconds left before half, I decided to make a very gutsy call and go with another fake field goal, but Eddie Pinheiro is the MVP, completing his 2nd fake field goal for a touchdown this playoff run, and both have been very clutch. Rodgers chokes like he usually does, which sets up the MVP, Eddie Pinheiro, for a 54-yard field goal while iced, and he nails it, sending Carolina to the Super Bowl. He's definitely season MVP. The most boring Super Bowl ever, 0-0 in overtime, and the most Madden Super Bowl I could possibly think of, especially with the current state of both of these teams. I tried to get Eddie Pinheiro the MVP, so I go for the field goal. He drills it, and now the Raiders have one more drive to potentially tie up the game with a field goal, lose it just by having a horrible offensive performance and a turnover on downs, or winning the game with a touchdown. And with their season on the line, 4th and 17, Carr drops back to pass, and it is intercepted out of bounds by J.C. Horn. Probably the most Raiders thing they could have possibly done there. Or have one of their players arrested, which they probably did immediately following the Super Bowl. And sadly, Eddie Pinheiro did not win Super Bowl MVP. It was C.J. Henderson, who had 1 interception in like the first quarter that didn't amount to anything. Pinheiro should have got it, especially for the playoff run that he had. And one final thing I want to mention is the coin flips in overtime. I thought this would be kind of interesting, so I went back and calculated and seen how many I won. So there were 39 overtime coin tosses in total, and I won 20 of them. So I ended up winning 51.28% of the coin tosses that happened in this video. And I want to say, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me out a bunch. And I just want to thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.